In Finland, it is harder to become an elementary school teacher than it is to become a doctor. Let that sink in for a moment. The person teaching 6-year-olds how to read in a Helsinki classroom survived a more competitive selection process than the surgeon who will. Operate on your spine. At the University of Helsinki, the primary school teacher education program accepts just 6.8% of applicants. That is lower than their medical school, lower than their law school. Only 1 in 10 applicants across the entire country makes it into any teacher training program. And once they get in, every single teacher must complete a master's degree before they step foot in a classroom. Now, maybe you are thinking, okay, that is impressive, but what does Finland's teacher hiring have to do with me? I am a parent, not a principal. My child goes to school in Chicago or London or Sydney, not in some snow-covered town outside Oulu. Here is why this matters more than you think. Because Finland's teacher secret is not really about teachers. It is about a philosophy about talent, about trust, about what actually produces excellence in human beings. And the 3 principles that make Finnish teachers the best in the world are the same 3 principles that can transform how you raise your child at home. Tonight, let me take you inside the Finnish teacher training system first, because you need to understand just how radical it is. In the United States, teacher preparation programs accept roughly 70 to 80% of applicants. Many programs are scrambling to fill seats. The profession is hemorrhaging talent. 44% of American teachers leave within the first 5 years. Burnout, low pay, lack of respect, scripted curriculums that treat teachers like delivery drivers for standardized test prep. The message is clear. We do not trust you to teach, so we will tell you exactly what to say, exactly how to say it, and then we will measure your worth by how well your students bubble in answer sheets. Finland took the opposite path. In the 1970s, they made a decision that sounded insane at the time. They closed all their teacher training colleges and moved teacher education into research universities. Every teacher would now need a master's degree. Not because they needed more theory, because they needed teachers who could think like researchers. Teachers who could look at a struggling student and diagnose the learning problem the way a doctor diagnoses an illness. Teachers who understood child psychology, cognitive development, and the neuroscience of how children learn to read. The result was a profession so prestigious that it attracts the top 10% of university graduates, not the bottom third, which is the reality in many countries. And here is the part that should keep you up at night if you are a parent. Multiple studies, including a landmark McKinsey report and research from Stanford economist Eric Hanushek, have found that the single most important in-school factor determining your child's academic success is teacher quality, not class size, not technology, not curriculum. The teacher standing in front of the room. A student with a top quintile teacher learns in 1 year what a student with a bottom quintile teacher learns in 6 months. That is the gap. And Finland decided to close it, not by testing children more, but by selecting teachers more carefully. But the selection is only half the story. The real magic happens after teachers are hired, because Finland does something that terrifies most education systems. They trust their teachers completely. Finnish teachers have almost total autonomy over their classrooms. There is no national standardized testing until the very end of high school. No scripted lesson plans. No administrators doing surprise observations with clipboards. Teachers design their own assessments. They choose their own teaching methods. They decide when a child needs more time on a concept and when the class is ready to move forward. The national curriculum is a thin document, about 10 pages, that outlines broad goals, not minute-by-minute instructions. Teachers are treated as professionals, not as assembly line workers. And when you treat people as professionals, they rise to the expectation. The retention numbers prove this. 90% of Finnish teachers stay in the profession for their entire careers. 90%. In America, nearly half are gone within 5 years. Finnish teachers do not burn out because they are trusted to do the job they were trained to do. Autonomy is not a perk. It is a performance multiplier. Now, let me connect this to your home, because if you are a parent watching this, there is a good chance you are doing the exact opposite of what Finland does with its teachers. Not because you are a bad parent, because our culture has trained you to do it. Think about how you handle homework. Your child sits down with a math worksheet. They hesitate on the third problem. What do? If you are like most parents, you lean in. You point at the problem, and you say, "Look, You forgot to carry the one. You solve it for them, or you guide them so closely that they did not really solve it at all. You micromanaged because watching them struggle made you uncomfortable. Now imagine if Finland treated its teachers the way we treat our children during homework. A government official walks into the classroom every 10 minutes, points at the lesson plan. It says, "No, you should be teaching fractions this way." Takes the chalk from the teacher's hand and demonstrates the correct method, then walks away feeling helpful, while the teacher stands there diminished, disempowered, and less motivated than they were 10 minutes earlier. That is what we do to our children. And the research is devastatingly clear on what it produces. Children who are micromanaged develop what psychologists call learned helplessness. They stop trying because they have learned that an adult will always swoop in and fix it. Their academic self-efficacy, their belief that they can figure things out on their own, plummets. And here is the cruelest irony. The parents who micromanage the most are often the most educated and most invested in their children's success. They are not bad parents. They are loving parents who have been told that good parenting means constant involvement. Finland's teacher model teaches us something radically different. It teaches us that excellence does not come from surveillance. It comes from selecting well, preparing well, and then stepping back far enough for the person to own their own work. So how do you apply this at home? 3 principles, pulled directly from the Finnish teacher playbook. Principle 1. Trust over micromanagement. When your child is doing homework or learning a new skill, resist the urge to hover. Let them struggle for at least 5 minutes before you offer help. The struggle is not a sign that something is wrong. The struggle is the learning. Finnish teachers call this the productive struggle principle, and it is backed by cognitive science. When the brain has to work hard to retrieve information or solve a problem, it strengthens neural pathways. When you give the answer, you rob the brain of that strengthening. Next time your child says, "I can't do this," try responding with "not yet." Show me what you have tried so far. In Sears, that one word, "yet," signals trust. You believe they can figure it out. You are just not going to do it for them. Principle 2. Mastery over measurement. Finnish schools do not give grades until children are in their teens. Let me say that again. No grades, no report cards with letter scores, no class rankings. The focus is entirely on whether the child understands the material, not on how they compare to the child sitting next to them. At home, this means stop asking the grade question. Stop saying, "What did you get on the test?" And start asking, "What did you learn this week that surprised you?" When you shift from grades to learning, you shift your child's motivation from external to internal. They stop learning for the A and start learning because learning feels good. Decades of research on self-determination theory, from psychologists Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, confirm that internal motivation produces deeper learning, greater creativity, and better mental health than external rewards ever could. Principle 3. Autonomy builds capability. Finnish teachers get to choose how they teach because the system trusts their expertise. You can give your child the same gift in small daily doses. Let a 5-year-old choose between the red shirt and the blue shirt. Let an 8-year-old decide the order of their homework assignments. Let a 12-year-old plan the family dinner menu for one night a week. These are not trivial decisions. They are autonomy reps. Each one builds the neural circuitry of decision-making, planning, and self-trust. When you make every decision for your child, what to wear, what to eat, when to study, what to study, you are training them to look to an external authority for guidance. Finnish teachers train children to look inward. The difference shows up in adulthood as confidence versus dependence. Now, here is the bigger picture. Finland's education system consistently ranks in the top 5 globally on the PISA exam, the program for international student assessment that tests 15-year-olds in reading, math, and science across 79 countries. And they achieve this with fewer school hours, less homework, and 0 standardized testing pressure. Finnish students spend about 5 hours a day in school. American students spend closer to 7. Finnish students have 15 minutes of recess for every 45 minutes of instruction. American elementary students in many districts are lucky to get 1 recess period a day. The secret is not more time. The secret is better teachers, trusted fully, given the autonomy to do what they were trained to do. And the principle scales down to the smallest unit of education, the relationship between one adult and one child in a living room, at a kitchen table on a Wednesday evening with a math worksheet and a frustrated 7-year-old. You cannot move your family to Helsinki, but you can bring Helsinki's philosophy into your home. Select the right inputs. Trust the process. Step back far enough for your child to step forward. That is what the top 10% of the world's teachers would tell you to do, and they should know. They are the ones who got in. If you want to understand more about how Finland approaches the earliest years of education, I made a video about why Finnish children do not start formal school until age 7 and what happens to their brains during those extra years of play. The is in the description. Subscribe and hit the bell so you do not miss what comes next. These Nordic countries have been quietly running a 50-year experiment in raising humans, and the results are too compelling to ignore.